my name is Nora and this is my channel. So I wanted to discuss another topic that I've been thinking about recently, and here on the screen you'll see a couple of sketches that I made for the piece that I'm going to show you, and this piece is an illustration of a one-line story that I wrote, or kind of scene that I made up. And I'll tell you the reasoning and why I made this illustration, but I just wanted to share with you my sketches mainly because I wanted to kind of craft a thought in this video that your first idea is probably the cliche or not your best. And obviously this isn't a revelation, I'm sure you know this already, that your first idea or your first draft of an essay or a book story, whatever illustration, your first draft isn't your best idea. It's probably the most used idea. And if you look at like the top left illustration, it is the cliche. And I like did it, I drew it, and I was like, it's pretty, it's a good, concept. I'm gonna move on and try again. So I did another one, and it was from a different angle, and I felt like it was the same idea but a different perspective of that idea. But I should tell you the one-line story that I wrote. Having found the fair maiden injured, the Mer-prince carries her to the surface. That was my idea. And I only did this idea because I kind of wanted to illustrate a mermaid, or a Mer-prince, or a merman, as you may call them, only because I've never done it before, and I was thinking of how much I love The Little Mermaid, and I just wanted to create a story in which this would be a cool illustration to make, and I would get a chance to actually draw a mermaid. And then as I was going through all of the internet's pictures of mermaids and Pinterest, I came across this guy called Edmond Dulac. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right because I am a failure at pronunciations. But this man is incredible. He's most famous, I can't talk. He is most famous for illustrating the Arabian Nights stories, and he's got an amazing style, and he's illustrated a lot of illustrations. Mainly, some of them are really surprising. And like in the Arabian world, I live in Abu Dhabi. In the Arabian world, we know of Majnun Layla. The Middle East, we know of Majnun Layla. It's a very famous story here, but you don't really hear about it in European culture because it's a fairy tale. And he actually illustrated that story in addition to the Arabian Nights, and I was like very surprised that he even knew about it, to the point where he actually illustrated an illustration within that story. And it's a beautiful illustration, and I love his style. He's amazing. But what really captured me was the way in which he illustrates scenes from the books that he's because he's an illustrator, he's not a writer. So people write books and then they ask him to illustrate for them so that it would go in the book. So what he would do is obviously read through the book the way you would, and then find a line which he kind of pictured a really clear image in his head, I assume. I'm not trying to tell you this is what he thought, but this is the way I interpreted his creations. He would find a line within a paragraph that, seemed really cool and awesome to illustrate, and then he would illustrate that the way I just did now. That's the line that I chose from this made-up world or story that I've created to make a piece on. And that's what he does. He makes really beautiful illustrations, but I wish that I'd gotten easier on myself, because I've never done a huge illustration like you see this one to be, because this has atmospheric perspective, it's underwater, the color palette is unfamiliar to me. There was a lot of struggles when I was painting this, and that's why you don't see the full illustration within this video, because I wasn't comfortable enough to record it, because I was thinking super hard about how I wanted to actually make this illustration and what I was doing at the time. And I felt uncomfortable with, recording it for you guys to see my failures. It's all about self-consciousness and the human, the way in which a human brain works. But I didn't actually remember to record because I was thinking so hard about what I was gonna do. But in the sense that I drew this, and it was my third idea. It was the third like sketch that I made, and it really kind of, in my brain, I saw the way he illustrated his pieces, which were it's just so beautiful. They also have atmospheric perspective. They're really big. Some of them are really simple. If you look at them, the shapes are really easy, and he's just really good. Obviously, he has his fundamentals down, and if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say fundamentals, again, I will reference Marco Bucci here. On his channel, he has a whole 10-minute series where he teaches the fundamentals, and I will swear by him. He is one of the best teachers on the internet when it comes to painting. Just go check him out. Honestly, I've never been so moved about fundamentals, and just I've never learned so much. In this 1 year, I learned not only to paint on Photoshop, which I've never touched Photoshop before this year, but I learned a lot about shapes and how the human anatomy works from him, and how to mess around with brushes and not be afraid to experiment, and what painting is to somebody. I struggled a lot before I found his channel, and it is really a big moment for someone when they find somebody they look up to, and he is one of my biggest inspirations. Amazing artist, love him, go check him out, great guy. So coming back to my idea of storytelling, for me, in my particular situation, I find myself interested not in making a picture, which is a skill that you learn, but my love of painting or illustration comes from storytelling, because I find that if you illustrate really well, one picture can make somebody imagine a full story. And some of Edmond Dulac's works are really good. They kind of portray the idea of what you were thinking historically. You know the classics like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty and Beauty and the Beast. You know those stories. You know what they're like, and especially if you've read the originals, right? And if you haven't, they're nothing like Disney movies. But if you know those and you look at his illustrations, he can tell you part of that story really well with his illustrations. That's why I feel so connected to his artwork, and I really want to pursue the kind of feeling I get from his art, because not only do I see his art as beautiful, but I get a part of a story from it. And I get it, every illustration can do that, but I don't want to be that artist that is moved by Instagram likes or views on YouTube or whatever like that. I want to be an illustrator that makes story with her art. Some people, they find illustrating pinups to be an easy way to get people's attention on social media, and I completely understand that. And I find myself doing portraits all the time. They're fun to do and much easier than making a huge illustration, but to me, that's not the love. That's not what moves me. Again, I'm going to reference Marco Bucci here. Marco Bucci looks at his artwork, like the actual sense that you get from his artwork is very childlike and beautiful and colorful, and he talks about how he treats color in a lot of his videos, but his moving factor, what makes him want to create art, is the question of what makes us different from children, what makes an adult different from a child, and what is this feeling that a child has about exploration and just freedom that a child has. And you can see it in his artwork. He's much older than I am. He's found what works for him. He found what he wanted to say. And I don't have that yet. I'm still really young. I don't know what it is that is going to move me when I'm 10 years older. But what I know and my experience have taught me is that stories come in different shapes and sizes, and people connect to different aspects within stories. But what attracts me the most to any story is if it's done really well, and if I can connect emotionally to it in some aspect. I don't need to have experienced heartbreak I don't have to have experienced heartbreak to understand what a heartbroken person feels like. I can see it in their eyes. I can see it in the way in which somebody writes about heartbreak. I want to be that person to create that certain emotion in someone, but with my artwork. And the idea behind this discussion that I wanted to have today, and recapping again, is that your first idea is not your best idea. And it's really hard when you're full of energy and creative juices to kind of step back and do a couple more sketches. Even though I only did 3 before I started illustrating, it took energy from me to not jump into it straight away. And yeah, I made mistakes. No way, I did make mistakes. This was really difficult. It's a huge painting and I was not prepared to make this illustration. But I kind of like powered through, and it's not fully rendered, and I don't ever want it to be. It is just a piece that I created, which I feel connected to. And it is my first real kind of storytelling illustration that I absolutely adore, that is completely original. So it's not a fan art of a book series or movie that I like or anything like that. It is my story that I kind of made up in 2 seconds, that I've illustrated a part of that story. And it's not to say that, illustrating fan arts or illustrating a piece of your favorite book is a bad thing, because that's what illustrators like Edmond Dulac used to do. But it's just that it was a fun exercise that took a couple of days, but it was an interesting situation that I would repeat again. My takeaway from this is that, challenge yourself, but also know your limits. And also, if I were to do this again, I would kind of scale it down. This, you might not have been able to look, but I'll show you the full illustration before. But this illustration had so much in it that I loved and that I struggled with. The composition of this illustration is actually very good if you look properly, mainly because I really tried to make it feel like a moment in time. And I think that's what kind of attracts me to art, is that you can capture a moment in time and you step into that world through a picture. And photography does that all the time. I mean, photography does that, you see old black and white pictures and you kind of feel connected to the people there, because you want to be in their shoes, you want to enter that room that they're in, you want to see what they're doing. And to me, that's what illustration does. You step into a magical world of wonder, or a realistic world of pain, or whatever it is that you are illustrating. You step into that world through an image, and that's what moves me. That's what makes me want to create art. I want to be a part of that. And so I kind of fell in love with art and illustration because of that. I found myself really attracted to artists that can do that well, that can make you feel like you're stepping into a world of magic and wonder. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Your first idea is probably not your best. And if you're going to illustrate, if you're going to make art, or if you're going to go into a creative endeavor, know what it is that you want to do. Because I found myself wanting to do maybe animation or whatever, but you never know until you try. Anyway, I'm just going to wrap up now. Thanks for watching. This is the illustration. I'm not going to do any more painting on it. It took so long, and I need to move on. But I might kind of bring it down, the scale of the illustration, if I don't want to spend so much time on it. But yeah, no, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to subscribe, like the video, and comment. And yeah, no, definitely, please guys, like and subscribe. I need some love. I'm feeling really, really discouraged this week. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you guys later. Bye!